Call the meeting to order. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Agenda review. Anything to add, Kathy?
Testing. Great. Okay. Yes, I do have actually a few things to add. Under the COVID update, we have had some requests to add the mask mandate, which we would have discussed anyway. And I am also going to add just some specific things so that I don't forget to talk about them. Social distancing, cohort groups, and the travel advisory. And that will all be under COVID update. And then graduation date and the location of upcoming board meetings. And finally, winter sports.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next items on the agenda are approval of the minutes. Unfortunately, we cannot do the December 6th Academic Affairs meeting yet because that's Tim and Charlene, and unfortunately Charlene is absent again tonight. She's homesick, so we're going to skip over that one. We'll go to the minutes for the school board meeting from January 10th. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Jim.
Second.
Second by Jim Pittman. All those in favor? Tim? Abstain. Wendy? Stephanie? Dr. Jim?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene is absent. Dana? And chair votes aye as well. The next is the February 5th school board meeting prior to and ending after the deliberative session.
To accept the minutes?
Moved by Jim Pittman. Second by Dr. Jim. All those in favor for the school board meeting on the 5th? Tim? Wendy?
Yes.
Stephanie? Yes. Dr. Jim?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Dana? Yes. And chair votes aye as well. The next is the minutes from the deliberative session on February 5th. Okay.
To accept.
Motion to accept from Dr. Jim. Second? Second from Tim? Dana, sorry. Second, Dana. Okay, all those in favor. Tim? Wendy?
Yes.
Stephanie? Yes. Dr. Jim?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Dana? And chair votes aye as well. And the last approval tonight is the manifest that will be assigned tonight. The accounts payable manifest total $4,644,261.09. The payroll manifest total $1,761,474.28 for a total manifest being signed tonight of $4,405,935.37. Moved by Tim. Seconded by Wendy. Okay, all those in favor, Tim? Wendy? Stephanie? Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Dana? And chair votes aye as well. We're going to have public input now, 15 minutes public input. Please try to limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes so everyone has an opportunity. We'll start with someone in this room, and then we'll go to the back room and then back to this room. So if you'd like to speak, step up to the mic, please. Keep your masks on and speak clearly. State your name and the town that you're from.
All right. I, Daniel Batten, one of the people as seen in New Hampshire Constitution Bill of Rights, Article 8, sui juris, in this court of record, You, being trustees of the people, must provide due care and remember your oath which binds you. With full knowledge, you took an oath to uphold the United States and New Hampshire constitutions. By implementing mandates concerning personal health decisions for the people of New Hampshire and their children, you are exercising authority under color of law which was never granted to you. The Constitution clearly reserves authority to make or suspend laws to the legislature. By improperly exercising authority not granted to your office, you have violated that oath and are subject to removal. New Hampshire Constitution Bill of Rights, Article 29, quote, "The power of suspending the laws or execution of them ought never to be exercised but by the legislature, or by authority that derived therefrom, to be exercised in such particular cases only as the legislature shall expressly provide for." New Hampshire RSA 42, quote, "Every town officer shall make and subscribe the oath or declaration as prescribed by Part 2, Article 84 of the Constitution of New Hampshire, and any such person who violates said oath after taking the same shall forthwith be dismissed from the office involved." Since New Hampshire is not a home rule state, no local government agents, including school boards, may enact mandates or policies which conflict with those of the state. This is especially illegal if those requirements are not in keeping with the Constitution of the state of New Hampshire. Many elected officials and local officers have wrongfully argued that legal precedent supports their actions. Nowhere in any of the 50 state constitutions, however, does precedent appear as justification for exercising authority. Should you try to argue to precedent, however, you ought to consider recent rulings by Supreme Courts in New York, Texas, Arizona, Illinois, and indeed the Supreme Court of the United States, which have all heard cases regarding the illegal usurpation of perceived authority where none in fact exists. These cases clearly pertained to the situation in New Hampshire, and this board would do well to reverse course as we see public servants being held accountable across the country. Take notice that as one of the people, it is the right, duty, power, and responsibility to give education to our elected servants to the possibility that you are knowingly or accidentally violating the people's constitutionally guaranteed rights through the implementation or following of policies or mandates that force the people to give up their rights or force them into compliance with programs of any sort. Take notice the articles from the Constitution which clearly show from whom governmental power is derived. New Hampshire Constitution Bill of Rights, Article 1, quote, "All men are born equally free and independent. Therefore, all government of rights originates from the people, is founded in consent, and instituted for the general good." New Hampshire Constitution Bill of Rights, Article 2, quote, "All men have certain natural, essential, and inherent rights, among which are the enjoying and defending of life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and, in a word, of seeking and obtaining happiness." And New Hampshire Constitution Bill of Rights, Article 32, quote, "The people have a right in an orderly and peaceable manner to assemble and consult upon the common good, give instructions to their representatives, and to request of the legislative body by way of petition or remonstrance redress of wrongs done them and of the grievances they suffer." Take notice that government workers are the trustees and servants of the people as seen in the New Hampshire Constitution, which describes the role of the government worker in a republic. I'm almost finished. New Hampshire Bill of Rights, Article 8. "All power residing in and being derived from the people, all the magistrates and officers of government are their substitutes and agents, and at all times accountable to them. Government, therefore, should be open, accessible, accountable, and responsive."
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the back now. Is the other room, is there someone that would like to speak in the back room?
Jessica Williams, Wolfeboro. It has now been 701 days since March 16th, 2020, and our kids are still wearing masks to school and sitting socially distanced at lunch. Meanwhile, they've fallen behind academically, not to mention emotionally and spiritually, victims incalculable but tremendous harm in that time frame. So what does this board do about it? You have an academic affairs meeting to once again go over the dress code to determine if it's appropriate for young women to dress themselves in a way that may lead to sexual victimization. Yet you sit there smugly victimizing them without a second thought by insisting to impress upon them your political dogma. You may believe your actions over the last 2 years are justified by circumstance or to protect the most vulnerable. But who is more vulnerable than those who have no political voice? Our children. Our children who cannot vote, who have been forced to comply and taught that their obedience is more virtuous than their well-being. Per the New Hampshire COVID dashboard today, citizens aged 0 through 19 account for over 25% of all cases, and there is a 0% death rate. As a percentage of population, this same age group accounts for 51.8% of all cases, and still there is a 0% case fatality rate. Who are you protecting? Your own rear end? Are you afraid of what people will think of you if you take a stand? It's time to get politics out of my right to parent my children. We have had enough. Tonight, this ends. Tonight, I am serving you, per New Hampshire Statute 195.13, with a petition signed by over 1,100 residents and more than the required amount of registered voters who have had enough of your overreach, your egotism, your fear, and your complacency regarding the health and well-being of our children. You are not doing your best, and now it is time for the voters to decide what happens next. Make masks optional tonight, effective immediately. Our children deserve better. They do not like wearing masks. They are not wearing them properly to begin with. Since September 7th, 2021, according to your COVID spreadsheet available online, 795 of our staff and students have had a confirmed case of COVID. On top of this, your discriminatory mitigation protocols have robbed children of valuable instruction time from quarantine, turned your teachers into mask police, created a hostile, micromanaged work environment for district staff, and stressed families to the breaking point. Our children's education has suffered. Our teachers have suffered. Let it end tonight. We have only 9 days until school break. Let that serve as a buffer zone. Let our kids and teachers breathe a sigh of relief, and let's get on to the next challenge, and that is fixing what you've broken. You have over $10 million in your coffers to pay reparations to these students. You can start by letting them be kids. You can start by rewarding our hardworking teachers, bus drivers, custodians, and food service workers who have shown up despite the oppressive and chaotic work environment you have forced onto them. You can start by doing the right thing. I'm going to ask a police officer to come to this room to deliver to you copies of the signatures we have collected. I have scanned them all, and a group of us have verified every signature against the voter rolls of Wolfeboro, Brookfield, Tuftonboro, Ossipee, New Durham. You have 2 weeks to schedule a district-wide meeting where registered voters may come and vote to unmask our kids if you're unwilling to act tonight. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in the front room here? Again, state your name and your town, please.
I'm Jeremy Abbott from Wolfeboro. I, Jeremy Abbott, one of the people as seen in New Hampshire Constitution Bill of Rights, Article 6, Sir Juris, in this court of record, continue to give notice to sworn officials. Take notice that all excerpts from the several state constitutions describe and refer to all officers of government as those of trustees, servants, agents, and substitutes, whose role is the performance of the people's business. You are not a special class and are not higher in standing than the people. You are subject to the people's lawful demands. Therefore, the people have the responsibility of correcting maladministration, malice, and any other form of malfeasance while doing the business of the people. Take notice that the people of each state who create frames of government have the power to bar their government personnel from taking part in any federal action, cooperative program, or system that is not in favor of the people. Take notice that Title 42 programs and partnerships which give financial incentives in order to provoke government workers, officers, and officials to attack the liberty, interests of the people are not in accordance with the people's rights which you swore to protect. Take further notice that as one of the people, I wish to not have you or your agents interfere with the rights of the people, for no government has the power to make rules or legislation abrogating any of the people's rights. See Miranda versus Arizona, 1966. Quote, where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. New Hampshire Constitution Bill of Rights, Article 4, quote, Among the natural rights, some are in their very nature unalienable because no equivalent can be given or received for them. Of this kind are the rights of conscience. Take notice that the people are asserting their liberty interests and object to any focused current or future vaccinations, vaccine clinics on school grounds, requirement to wear masks or face coverings, social distance, any and all medical testing requirements, forced quarantine, segregation, or discrimination of any kind. Take notice that the people are making these demands so we can decide what is best for our children's health. I contend you will demand the same when a future government official wants your compliance to an order, policy, or mandate you find objectionable. The correct moral and constitutional course of action going forward is for the school board who swore to bear faith and true allegiance to the United States of America and the state of New Hampshire and support the Constitution thereof, is for you to recommend to the superintendent that all illegal mandates are suspended. So too, the correct course of action for the superintendent is to accept the recommendation of the school board that the illegal mandates be dropped and followed through on this action. You now have a choice. If you choose to consult with your taxpayer-funded attorneys, be sure to ask them where in the Constitution it says that you have authority to make and enforce mandates. Or you can bring it to a vote tonight to recommend to the superintendent that this illegal mask mandate must be removed, thus ending your role in this illegal action. You have now been served with notice of intent to pursue whatever legal means is required to rectify the violations to the New Hampshire State Constitution, all state constitutions, and the United States Constitution and restore power back to the people.
Can I approach the bench?
We're going to go in the back room now. You should bring them up.
There's more input from the back room.
We're not there yet. We're waiting for paperwork to be handed out to us.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay, now we'll go to the back room.
Good evening. My name's Katie Aller from Wolfeboro, and I have two wonderful children in the school district. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I also wanted to thank you for your commitment to our children in district. I don't doubt your love and care for children in the area. I think you are doing what you think is best for kids. That being said, I disagree with some of your decisions. My family and I are wholehearted supporters of mask choice. I think this far into COVID-19, each person has made their choice of how they and their families respond. And that's what it is, a choice. I fully respect a person's choice to wear a face covering for any reason they choose. There may be a list a mile long or one specific reason, but those are independent to each person. My family and I are fortunate enough to have healthy immune systems. Not that it's any of your business, but in conjunction with that, we are all fully immunized against COVID-19, along with 65% of the American population, and also 75% has had at least one dose. We've done what we can, or we've done our part to stop the spread and influx into hospital. There is no other reasons for us to take further measures against COVID-19 apart from basic hygiene. We all know how to wash our hands and cover a cough. We were taught that in elementary school. Our schools are full of low-risk people. These are not hospitals, nursing homes, or retirement communities. These are children who, in discussion with their parents or caregivers, can make a choice about what they feel comfortable with. I don't want to dissuade anyone from wearing a mask if they choose. I recently went to my daughter's basketball game in Alton. I was told via email from her coach specifically that all fans are required to wear masks. I brought one. When I got to the school, I had only a handful of people, apart from our student athletes, were wearing one. The other team, coaches, fans, and referees all chose to breathe freely. It's on YouTube. You can check it out. My daughter and her teammates were threatened before the game with loss of playing time and discipline if they removed their masks for anything apart from sipping water. Thankfully, my child and her teammates have the wherewithal to understand when situations are wrong, and they recorded the verbal lashing. That was sent to our athletic director. I fully believe that Mr. House is doing his best to resolve that situation. He has been very accommodating and helpful so far. While at the game, I had the pleasure of seeing you, Dr. Jim Manning. I think we can both agree that the girls played a hard-fought game. What I thought was most interesting, though, was when I went up to greet you specifically, you had chosen to take your mask off. Please tell me why you are able to choose when and where to take your mask off, yet you decide to take that choice away from my children and other schoolmates. I would like an answer. Am I going to get an answer?
Public input is just that, public input.
Okay. I would like an answer after that. Okay. I truly hope going forward that the school board does what is best for students, parents, and the staff that make mask wearing a choice. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we have time for one more in this room, I think, and if there's anyone who would like to speak. All right, we're going to move on then with the rest of our agenda. Fallon, the student representative report.
To start off, I'm going to be talking about student council. This next week, Winter Carnival starts the week of February 21st through the 25th. The dress-up days included for this week are Groutfit, Throwback, Anything But a Backpack, Jersey Day, and Class Color Day. The annual lip sync will be held on Friday during B Block and D Block. The seniors announcing the lip sync will be Marissa Ross and Jill Caravella. The faculty judges will be Mrs. Famulari, Mr. Burns, and Mr. Nyan. All competitive activities will be spread throughout the week after school due to not having a school assembly on Friday. For NHS, the National Honor Society will be holding Kingswood and Kids this Saturday at the high school, located in the main gym. It will be held from 9 to 10:30, and there will be games, crafts, and a snack break. Second semester is now underway, and we're over halfway through our school year. Poetry Out Loud is progressing and going well. Spring sports registration is currently underway. Registration will close March 15th. Middle school sports tryouts for baseball and softball will begin on March 14th. High school varsity tryouts will begin on March 21st for baseball, softball, boys lacrosse, and girls lacrosse. The student athlete leadership team will be planning community and fundraising games, including the Dig Pink flag football game and the Brawley Ball game. There will be more information coming soon. The Lakes Region Technology Center has presented Kingswood, Moultonborough Academy, and Prospect Mountain High School to the sophomore and juniors to inform them of the upcoming opportunities to register to take classes at the center. Kingswood students had the opportunity to register for task talks with the center's individual programs and teachers to find out more about what is offered in the classroom and labs. Over 3 days, there were over 190 potential students that came to visit. This week, there's a celebration for Career and Technical Education Week. The schedule of events are attached. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to read that. Yes, attached for me. The Marketing Education Level 1 traveled to their state competition last Wednesday and Thursday in Concord, New Hampshire. Level 2 is working on their social media certifications. Health Science and Technology clinicals are continuing at Wolfeboro Baycare and Rehabilitation Center on Clipper Drive in Wolfeboro. Graphic design is taking a break from the yearbook design and doing an open and horizontal versus closed and vertical visualization project. The multimedia students are starting to produce their short films. Theater Stagecraft performed one act featuring The Other Room by Adrian Blade. Computer technology students are continuing their work on cybersecurity. Careers in education students continue to work with the Magic Moments Daycare and are now traveling to Carpenter Elementary School on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Automotive technology students finished converting a standard transmission to an automatic transmission in a truck and are now working on a Jeep engine issue. Precision manufacturing and construction trade students are continuing to travel to Marker Space to finish building railings and balusters for their main space stairs. Culinary arts students are preparing for the annual Valentine's dinner to be served on Thursday, February 17th. Tickets are currently on sale. Collision technology students are currently doing bodywork on a Ford Explorer and sent 2 custom-made choppers to Florida for competition. Agricultural science students are continuing to work on their SAEs, supervise agricultural experience, and wintering their beehives. Unfortunately, they did lose a beehive 2 weeks ago. Students will be traveling for a national FFA office visit for a dinner and reception. This week going on in the Tech Center, yesterday there was a bagged breakfast delivered to all A-Ball classes from the culinary program. Today, there was 90 8th grade students that came to view the center from 8 to 8:30 and another 90 from 8 to 8:30, or 8:30 to 9:30. Wednesday, there will be a partner exhibit viewing of the following during tasks. Some of the following are Wolfeboro Chamber of Commerce, Mall of the Charlie, Goodhue Hawkins, Lake Winnie Golf Course, Headwall, Wolfeboro Children's Center, and the Wolf Trap. On Thursday, there will be a Valentine's Day dinner. You can get reservations for dinner, and it starts at 7. Friday the 18th, on Friday, there will be an end of celebration games and ice cream social.
Thank you, Fallon. Okay, moving on to Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Jack. Fallon, that was a great report, and it's so great to hear about the Winter Carnival activities. That's going to be a fun week, so thank you. The first thing under my report tonight is our System of Care grant. I'm really pleased to have Sarah Skoglin with us tonight to present what she's been working on this past year. Sarah is our Wellness Coordinator, which is a position that's funded by a Systems of Care grant we received from the Department of Education. Sarah's primary mission is the social and emotional health of our students. We all know that the pandemic has taken a toll on our students, and so we're fortunate to have this opportunity to work under the Wellness Grant and to work with Sarah. She is working across the district to help us continue the work we started a while ago on multi-tiered systems of support. So what we're really looking to do is to shore up our K-12 connections and our use of data to make sure that we can sustain our systems of support over the long haul. So Sarah's doing great work, and I'm looking forward to having her talk with you about it tonight. The other thing that I don't want to forget to mention is that Sarah is looking for a board representative to serve on a community advisory board. And I know Sarah will talk a little bit about what that is and what that means. And so if any board members have an interest, you can let me know. So Sarah?
Wonderful, thank you. Good evening. My name is Sarah Skoglin, and I am the Student Wellness Coordinator here in the Governor Wentworth Regional School District. This is a new position within the district funded by the System of Care 2.0 grant that I'll be reviewing with you here tonight. The System of Care grant is funded through the New Hampshire Department of Education by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, typically referred to as SAMHSA. We are one of 4 newly funded districts in New Hampshire to receive this System of Care funding, and I have been working closely with the Department of Education's Office of Social Emotional Wellness to address the goals outlined by this grant. We are in year 2 of this 4-year grant cycle that runs from September to August. While I expect the Student Wellness Coordinator position to evolve over time, one of my primary focuses this year has been supporting our schools in the continued development of our multi-tiered system of support for behavioral health and wellness. The multi-tiered system of support for behavioral health and wellness is a comprehensive, tiered prevention system of social, emotional, and behavioral supports to promote student wellness and improve engagement in learning. For time's sake, I will refer to this as MTSSB moving forward. We have used a multi-tiered system of support within the district for quite some time, to provide academic and behavioral support at all 3 tiers. For those of you unfamiliar with the model, Tier 1 focuses on universal supports for students. Tier 2 targets students who may be at risk or who have some risk factors in a particular area. And Tier 3 level services focus on more individualized interventions for students with the highest level of need. To give you an example as it pertains to behavioral health and wellness, a Tier 1 support would be school-wide behavioral expectations. So for example, be safe, be respectful, be responsible. These are universal expectations of the school, and there is instruction and modeling for all students to target these particular areas. A Tier 2 support could be a small social skills group for students who need additional instruction or guided practice for appropriate social engagement. A Tier 3 intervention might be a student support plan that is individualized to the needs of the student and targeting specific behavior. To give you a sense of where we started district-wide, these visuals show many of the MTSSB systems we already have in place within our schools. I'll give you a moment just to kind of look at this. There are a lot of items on here, but these are our Tier 1 supports. Although some of these supports vary by grade or age level, this is in many ways our baseline for the project. This pyramid will continue to grow as we develop the MTSSB model and progress through this process. It's our Tier 2. This tiered framework is of particular importance to the System of Care 2.0 grant to support students' social, emotional, behavioral, and mental health needs within our school communities. However, another foundational piece to this model is building strong collaboration between schools, families, behavioral health providers, and other community agencies to deliver high-quality supports and services beyond our school doors. SAMHSA also distributed System of Care funding to our Community Mental Health Center, Northern Human Services. This funded the hiring of a school liaison whose primary responsibility is to work with our district to support this service model. This could include offering Tier 3 services to students who qualify, supporting staff members with professional development targeted around mental health topics, and supporting the district as it continues to develop this tiered service model through our teaming structure. Another piece of this process is the development of a district and community leadership team that includes school and district level administrators, behavioral health staff, and community partners and agencies. This team will be assessing and establishing MTSSB systems, outlining district level goals based on data, as well as building partnerships and aligning resources to support our students. This team is set to meet monthly to review goals outlined, monitor progress, and act as an advisory committee on behalf of the MTSSB model for our district schools. Our pilot schools have been utilizing a progress monitoring application that looks at trends, monitors growth, and creates reports to identify areas of strength and areas of improvement in terms of the MTSSB framework. The process of developing this behavioral health and wellness framework is meant to be steady, intentional, and manageable for our schools. This is not an initiative. It is a framework for delivering services to improve the mental, emotional, and behavioral health functioning of all students based upon their level of need. Our schools are at various stages in this process, and we will progress at a speed that is comfortable and manageable while also maintaining momentum. In order to be sustainable, we want to mobilize our people to create a system for collecting and using data, to make an intentional plan for their population, to implement strategies and interventions, and to monitor progress. With our Northern Human Services School Liaison, we will be able to leverage resources and increase access to high-quality mental health services and support for Governor Wentworth students and their families. I want to thank you for your continued support and for allowing me to be here tonight. Is there anything I can help clarify or any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Hello. So,
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you so much, first of all, for stepping into this role. It is a big one, and thank you so much for all the hard work you've done so far. My question was about New Durham, which falls outside of the catchment area of Northern Human Services, and I'm wondering how you can describe how the students that are from New Durham's mental health care needs are being addressed.
So some of those pieces we're still figuring out because this grant is somewhat new. We are not the only district with those particular circumstances. So I know that that has been brought to the attention of the Department of Education, and it's something we're kind of working on statewide. So I can certainly follow up once we've made all of those determinations. I have not forgotten about New Durham, I promise.
And I can probably answer that question a bit, Stephanie, because a lot of what you're seeing in Tier 1, 2, and 3 are services within the schools and are structures that we're creating in every school, and that would include New Durham as well. So while the linkage to the mental health center may not be there yet, the other structures are. So I think that the leap that we need to make is to involve Stratford County and any mental health services they have there.
Okay, anything else?
I volunteer.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sarah, thank you very much.
That was
Thank you.
wonderful, Sarah. Great presentation. Thank you. And great work, too. All right. The next item is remote meeting attendance. We have a parent that emailed me to ask me if I would make sure that remote meetings were on the agenda for tonight. I did mention that we had discussed, or that the board had discussed remote meetings in the past, and she was concerned because there was not a vote taken. So I just offer that to you for discussion and perhaps for a vote.
Any discussion on the remote option, Stephanie?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry for the echo. Yes, I think I received an email from the same person, from Bree Burbank in Warrington, Virginia, who was unable to be here tonight. It has a child in our district, and she would have been here if we had had our board meeting when it was scheduled, but had to be canceled because of weather. And her specific request is not for a freely accessible public link, but rather a case-specific accommodation to individuals who are unable to attend in person. And she expresses concerns about equity and access to public input. And I would like to make a motion to have the public input policy be put on the academic affairs agenda for our next academic affairs meeting, so we can look at our public input policy and see if there is a space or opportunity to move forward with this from a policy perspective.
Okay, motion's been made. Any second? Okay, motion by Stephanie and seconded by Wendy. Okay, all those in favor then of bringing the public input policy to academic affairs for the next meeting to discuss? Yes, Tim.
Hold on.
One question, I think.
Yeah, put your microphone on, please.
Here we go. Now I can sing. All right. I think we need to amend that to include not only the public input, but also board meeting policy. So both policies go forward.
That's true. Yeah, good point.
Okay, is that, everyone is in favor? Stephanie, are you in favor of amending your motion? Okay, and Wendy, second? Okay, then all those in favor of bringing the board meeting policy and the public input policy to academic affairs for review and possible modification. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Let's see, Tim? Wendy? Stephanie? Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman?
Aye.
Dana? And chair votes aye as well. All right, thank you. Moving on.
Okay. The next item is the Wood Estate. The high school is requesting $21,000 in scholarships from the Wood Estate, recognizing students from the class of 2021 and 2022 who have achieved in and out of the classroom. The money for the 2021 students, if approved, will be 11 $1,000 scholarships. And for 2022, this request is for 10 $1,000 scholarships. The Wood Estate is in good shape. It's well above the bar set for the amount of money we can expend. So I would recommend this.
Okay, discussion on accepting the recommendation for distribution of money from the Wood Estate as outlined on the sheet that you have from the high school. Any discussion? Tim?
Just one question, well, one of the questions. The 2021 scholarships, why weren't they requested or given out?
They were given out, but the money doesn't get distributed until this time of the year. So the request is coming in now.
Okay, and on another question, as far as funds, I know we typically always have plenty of funds in
Yes.
here, but do we know where that stands?
Yes, it's well over $700,000.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the recommendation from the Wood Extend Trust. Okay, moved by Dana, seconded by Tim. Okay, any other questions on the Wood Estate? Okay, all those in favor, signal by saying aye. Tim? Wendy? Stephanie? Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman? Dana? And chair votes aye as well. Thank you.
So we have more good news. A couple of months ago, we got a mysterious check in the mail and didn't know why we had received it. So we hung on to it, and finally we got a letter from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation congratulating us because they are pleased to inform us of a $6,000 grant from the Bald Peak Community Fund, one of the foundation's donor-advised fund. The grant is for the Nights Against Hunger program, which provides food assistance for middle and high school students. And the grant will be paid to SAU 49, Governor Wentworth Regional School District, as the fiscal sponsor. So that's really great news for the 68 Hours of Hunger program, and I can't imagine a better cause for it. So, no, I'm sorry, Nights Against Hunger. I said 68 hours. It should have been Nights Against Hunger. Thank you, Heather. So I can't imagine a better cause, and it will be put to good use. And thanks very much to the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation and the Bald Peak community.
Yeah, Bald Peak has done a tremendous job in distributing some of their funds for the children in hunger, so it's really a great organization. Thank you.
All right. Next item is deliberative session review. Typically, we take a few minutes to talk about how deliberative session went. At this meeting, it was a pretty quiet meeting, not too much as far as attendance goes. A few questions, but all good questions and all questions that were answered. I don't know if you have other feedback, board members, that you wanted to mention.
I just like to thank the SAU office and all for putting the presentations together. Again, the PowerPoint presentations, the paperwork, and all the work that goes into it makes the job of presenting the deliberative session very easy for the board. And, thank you for all the hard work that came out of the SAU office. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, so the other thing that we do here is to review the voting times and locations after deliberative sessions. So I will do that in a moment. Okay, so for Brookfield voters, the voting will be at the Brookfield Townhouse, and this is all on March 8th from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Effingham voters will be in the voting will be in the Effingham Municipal Building from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. New Durham voters will be at the New Durham School from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Ossipee voters will be at the Ossipee Town Hall from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuftonboro voters will be at Tuftonboro Central School from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Wolfeboro voters will be at the Wolfeboro Town Hall from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Right.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. The next item is the COVID update. And I think I've certainly gotten quite a few emails about the changes that we're seeing in New Hampshire and around the country. The cases have dropped dramatically. I think we had in the middle of January, we had on one day, I think we had 44 or 45 cases. The past week, I've had maybe 1 or 2 a day at most. So that's really great news. All of our children now have had the opportunity for vaccination. So another really great step forward. The Department of Health and Human Services has dropped a lot of its information and is linking to the Center for Disease Control, CDC. And on several news reports, Rachel Walensky has talked about the fact that CDC is currently reviewing their guidelines. And I do believe that we're going to see something come out shortly revising those guidelines. So I think that it is time to take a look at what we want to do with masks, social distancing, and our cohort groups, particularly outside, we haven't kept together since the changes, or not changes, but since we received information about outdoors and transmission outdoors being so low. And then the final thing that I wanted to talk about is the travel advisory, because the travel advisory hasn't changed. And I think what's going to happen in this transition period is that we're likely to see some things that change and other things are going to lag behind. So right now, I don't think we can do anything with the travel advisory because it's been the same for a long period of time, and I don't know when they're going to change that. But I think probably a good place to start would be with the mask requirement, to have a discussion about how board members are feeling about this at the moment.
Okay, Dr. Jim, I think you have something that you'd like to... Bring it close enough to you, Jim.
Yeah.
So you...
Thank you, Jack. I'd make the motion to suspend mandatory mask use beginning on 3/21/22, or when the CDC, New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services, lift their recommendation, whichever is first, with the following codas: that the suspension is subject to its lifting with the adverse event of a resurgence of COVID spread either before or after 3/21/22, and note that voluntary use is still recommended by the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay, so do everybody understand the motion? The motion is to suspend the mandatory masks use beginning March 21st, or when the CDC, New Hampshire DHHS lifts their recommendation, whichever is first, with the following codas: that this suspension is subject to its lifting with the adverse with the adverse event of a resurgence of COVID spread either before or after 3/21. And note that voluntary use is still recommended by New Hampshire DHHS. That's the motion. Do I have a second? And then we'll have discussion. Second. Okay, motion moved by Dr. Jim, seconded by Jim Pittman. Discussion.
Hello? I appreciate the motion, Dr. Manning. As I have gotten my pulse, I've talked to dozens and dozens and dozens of people in our schools, students, parents, teachers, as well as healthcare professionals in local hospitals, as I've formed my opinion about this, as well as looking at DHHS and CDC and data, and lots of data. The precipitous decline in counts is really encouraging. And I'm hearing in the hospitals for the first time that our healthcare workers are seeing light at the end of the tunnel, and that's very, very hopeful. As we consider our policy and shifting from a universal to a more targeted policy, I want to be mindful of a few things. One is that we do have students in our district who are very vulnerable in their health, and that I want to make sure that we have plans in place to protect those students who do have compromised immune systems. Kathy, it's my understanding that we have just received a whole lot of KN95 masks, is that correct?
Yes, we have 1,000 for children, and we have hundreds for adults.
Okay.
They've been distributed proportionally to each school.
Okay. I am hearing from administrators that as the culture in our country has shifted, and especially locally, that many people are very excited to remove masks, but there are also people who feel very unsafe without them. And that I think that the worst thing we could do is suggest that we take away a mask mandate tonight. I think that that could cause a lot of distress for students and teachers who don't feel safe, and would not allow those families who have more vulnerable students to make plans. What I would like to do is modify your proposal to remove the mask mandate effective at the end of vacation. So students would come back, and the mask mandate would be lifted, which would be March 7th. And the reason I say that is because the momentum of students being out for vacation and seeing in society that this is softening around them in other ways. I think it's going to be very hard for our administrators to enforce a mask policy for 2 weeks following vacation. And because the numbers are declining so precipitously, I anticipate that we should be in really good shape by the end of vacation. And so I would like to amend the motion for the mask mandate to be lifted on the 7th, so that students would come back and not require masks, that they would be strongly suggested, and that we would certainly make sure that those students who are vulnerable are targeted and identified as needing more higher levels of protection. The other piece that I really want to emphasize is that I really want teachers to be able to have conversations with students, and parents to have conversations with their children about the importance of choice moving forward if this is passed by the board and this becomes optional, because I can anticipate that there will be some students who will want to wear them, some students who will not, and I want to make sure that the culture in our schools is safe for all students, whatever their choices may be.
Thank you, Stephanie. So Stephanie is suggesting an amendment or modification of the motion on the floor. Dr. Jim, you made the motion, so I'd ask you if you're willing to accept that change or not.
Jack, there's one consideration we have to give to wearing the mask for a little longer, and that is that 3/18 is the date that the feds have decided that that's going to be the end of the mandate for the buses. If we did it on the 7th, then we're going to end up on the 18th still wearing to have masks on the buses until then. I can see that being chaos, and I would really prefer it to be somewhat simultaneous. Since the 18th is this Friday and the 21st is the following Monday, we won't have school on Saturday and Sunday, so they're basically occurring on the same day. So I'd be more inclined to go with that window instead of earlier.
Okay, Tim?
Jesus. Hold on.
You're on, I think.
I think it's on. Hello? Good thing I didn't speak too loud. Yeah. As far as the March 18th, that deadline has actually been moved a couple times. Granted, the virus kind of reared its ugly head. So the 18th is a target date. I have a feeling that may get pushed out again, unfortunately, and then we'll still be in the same boat. But I would strongly suggest that we go with the 7th so that it's a easy switch coming back from vacation. That's all.
So what I'm understanding is that at this point in time, because of the mandate on public transportation and the buses, the kids will still be required to wear masks after vacation on the buses, but they can take then it will be optional once they get into the school buildings. Is that correct? That's it's kind of a conundrum. I think it gives a mixed signal. You have to wear masks here, but and then they have to put their masks on back when they leave school at the end of the day to get back on the bus. Okay, Jim.
Yeah, I can appreciate the difficulty synchronizing all these moving targets. I wonder if a hybrid approach to this might be that if we were to go to the 7th, allow masks to be optional within the classroom, but then in alignment with the transportation element, require that masks still be necessary while changing classes, where you're going to have higher density, similar to what you would have on a bus, until we get to the 18th, which then we could remove that requirement as well. What are your thoughts about that?
Dr. Jim?
I can go with what Jim said. I like what Jim's thinking.
Okay, so if I understand what Jim's suggesting is that masks be optional while the children are in the classrooms,
Commencing on the 7th.
but when they're moving around inside the building, in the hallways and all that, they'd have to wear their masks in the building for in lunch breaks and stuff like that, where there's a lot of close contact for the most part.
I can go with that.
Until the 18th.
Until the 18th, okay, when that goes away, and then effective Monday, the 21st. Again, barring any change in the transportation process, which, Tim, that's still a moving target apparently, so right now it's the 18th, but that could change.
Yeah, it has changed a couple times already.
Okay.
I worry about.
You're not on, Stephanie.
You have to put your mic on, please.
It is on. I apologize. I worry about having worked in high schools for a while. I worry about the challenges of enforcing that, of students needing to use the bathroom or going, and having to put a mask on and off when they're not in their classrooms. I think would become logistically very challenging. And I appreciate the intent, but I think it would be very challenging to enforce.
I would say maybe you're overestimating the challenge, and it's also for only 2 weeks.
Okay, I think the proper way to move forward with this, since we have an amendment to the original motion, I think we should vote on the original motion. Hang on, are you on?
Are there masks available to students on the bus?
Yes, they are.
And would the school cafeteria, would the tables be changing if the masks are off? Because the tables still are very far apart.
That's the next item on the agenda, Fallon.
I was just confused just because on the bus, I don't know, I walk past the buses every day when I leave, and kids are all over the place, like climbing all over the bus seats with their masks on, but people aren't that close sitting at like the cafeteria table or at desks in the classroom.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think the proper way to move forward is take a vote on the original motion, which is to lift the mask mandate effective 3/21. That's what the original motion is on the floor. And if that passes, then we can have an amendment or a second vote on an amendment to that to change it from the 21st to the 7th, if that's the will of the board. So right now, because I think that's the proper way to do it. Right now, the person making the motion, which is Dr. Jim, is not in favor necessarily of changing his motion to the 7th.
If we're going to use Jim's premise of the 7th with masks in the hallways and so forth until such time as the 18th rolls around, I would have no trouble with that.
Okay, then we should really amend the motion itself then.
Yeah.
To state that the motion would be to suspend the mask mandate use beginning on 3/7, or again, when the CDC or DHHS lifts their recommendation, whichever is first. And again, adding to that, students in the building will still be required to wear masks when passing in the hallway or in close contact with other students at lunch, I guess, or
In large groups.
in large groups within the buildings. Go ahead, Kathy.
I just have a question about the motion. Does that mean that when the 21st comes, we'll still have masks in the hallways and?
No,
No, okay.
and then I guess that would be the follow-up then. Then effective 3/21, a mask would be optional in the building period. Stephanie?
Forgive me, I have to emphasize that this is going to be extremely difficult to enforce, and it also is somewhat illogical because the students are moving around each other and attending different classes with each other in different populations of mixed groups in the high school, and the effect of putting on a mask for the sake of passing each other in the hallway, if we're not requiring them elsewhere, is the equivalent of having to wear a mask while you're standing in a restaurant but not while you're sitting. I think it's just not, it doesn't have any added value to it, I feel.
Okay, right now the original motion is still in effect because we haven't moved and seconded a change. So where do we want to move with this?
Well, I think Dr. Jim said he would be willing to rephrase his original motion.
He would, as long as the caveat is that the children would still wear masks in large groups within the school. And I do understand Stephanie's concern if you have a lab in the high school and the kids are all around the table, some with masks, some without masks, it creates an issue. So anyway.
This is, I can empathize with Stephanie. I just think about it as a logistical nightmare. And I just think of our kids. I mean, I know many people are traveling for February vacation to Disney and various places. Our kids have learned, and we have no state mask mandate. I personally go without my mask to places, and I'm not ashamed of that. So I will say our kids have learned to adapt, to put the mask on when they're required to take it off because of different requirements and different social settings. And I feel that asking them to do it for that 2 week is nonsensical.
Okay, good.
Well, in terms of implementation of this, would the superintendent be willing to offer an opinion in terms of how difficult she would see this as?
Thank you, Jim. I think it would be difficult to implement. I think right now, our teachers and our administrators are constantly vigilant and reminding students to pull their masks up even when they're required to wear them all the time. I know I had occasion to meet with a student and he was not being non-compliant by any means. We were sitting talking and I had to ask him to put up his mask 3 times. So I think it's a yeoman's task right now. And I think if we were switching between classroom and hallways, it would become pretty difficult to implement consistently.
Okay, then if that's the case, Dr. Jim,
Jack, I think we ought to just go with 3-7 then,
okay, all right.
across the board.
Let's, okay, withdraw your original motion.
Yep.
And I'll reread your motion again. The motion then would be to suspend mask mandate use beginning on 3/7/22, or when the CDC, New Hampshire DHHS lifts their recommendation, whichever is first, with the following quotas, that this suspension is subject to its lifting with the adverse event of a resurgence of COVID spread either before or after 3/7. And note that voluntary use is still recommended by New Hampshire DHHS. That would be your new motion, Jim?
Yep.
Okay, moved by Jim that we change it to 3/7 in both cases. And seconded by Tim to make the change to 3/7. Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing no further, Tim? Okay, I thought you were ready to say something. Okay, then the motion is on the floor. No further discussion. All those in favor of accepting the motion to suspend the mask mandate as of 3/7, based on the motion, signal by saying aye. Tim? Wendy? Stephanie? Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman?
Aye.
Dana? And chair votes aye as well. So as of 3/7, masks will be optional. And now,
May I just add? Well, first I want to thank Jim Pittman for asking me the question. I appreciate that. And then I just want to mention that the masks would still be required on buses until the 18th, and possibly longer, depending on what CDC recommends.
right, we have no control over the transportation piece of this. Okay. And I do want to emphasize what Stephanie was saying about children respecting those with and without masks in our buildings. I think the kids will be fine, but I just want to reemphasize that this is a difficult decision for everybody, and some children will want to wear masks and some will not, but they should respect the other members of their class in whatever decisions they make. Thank you. Okay.
Well, I have a couple of other things under COVID update that I wanted to discuss, and one Fallon brought up, and that's social distancing. We've been doing a fair amount of social distancing in cafeterias because, of course, students don't have their masks on, so we've been keeping them further apart while eating as was recommended. And the same thing for certain music groups. So I would like to alter our plan so we're no longer doing the 6-foot social distancing. And then cohort groups, I would also like to take out the cohort group sentences in our stay open plan because there's really no indication that we need to stay in cohort groups at this time. And then finally, the third request I would have is that should the CDC come out with, or DHHS come out with a new travel advisory, that we follow the new travel advisory from now until the next board meeting. And that's it.
Okay, any comments on that or any questions? No, I don't think we need a motion.
Kathy, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Stephanie.
Would lifting the cohort group aspect of the policy allow schools to have like school-wide celebrations and assemblies again?
Yes. It would allow that. It would allow students to sit together in the cafeteria. So, yes, it would. And the other thing that this will do is it means that visitors to the schools will be required to do the same thing. So when visitors come to the schools, when this is implemented, it will be mask optional for them as well.
Jim?
What time frame did you want this to be effective? Would that be immediately?
I would immediately would be wonderful.
Thank you.
Do you want a motion on that, or no?
I think a motion would be great.
Okay, then I'd accept a motion then to implement the changes that Kathy's recommended on the Stay Open plan. Okay, moved by Dr. Jim and seconded by Jim Manning. That's okay. All right, those voting, Tim? Wendy? Stephanie? Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Dana? And chair votes aye as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And the next item is a happy item. It's winter sports. This year we were able to return to our winter traditions with outdoor winter sports and with our parent chaperones. And I know parents and students alike were really pleased that we are able to offer these opportunities again. The Tufton Borough Central School enjoyed a terrific winter sports program at the King Pine Ski Area and Pop Whalen Ice Center. Students received skiing, snowshoeing, snowboarding, and skating lessons for a part of each of the 4 sessions and were able to enjoy putting those lessons to use throughout the program. Folks in Tufton Borough felt like it was great to have the tradition back, and the experiences brought excitement and energy to the students and staff at TCS. New Durham School also had a successful winter sports program from January 12th through February 2nd. 21 students in grades 3 through 6 learned to ice skate. 53 students in grades 3 through 6 rode 2 buses to King Pine to learn to ski or snowboard. The New Durham School did something to get some feedback and sent out a survey to families. 92% were happy with the options available, and 33% of the students tried something new, and 88% of them were happy with the option that they chose and the new thing that they tried. So that's kind of interesting. Winter sports were also a success for Ossipee Central School in grades 4 through 6. There were 52 students that went skiing, 17 students went snowboarding, and they were at King Pine. And also there were 25 students that skated at Pop Whalen and 6 students that opted for snowshoeing. Ossipee Central School enjoyed wonderful conditions, and they were able to get in all 4 sessions. The students and staff at Ossipee Central School were also really happy to have this tradition back. Effingham Elementary does something a little different, participating in winter fun by sledding, snowman building, and fort construction. They have a tutu day, and when I say tutu, I mean T-U-T-U, and I think there's also some dressing up that goes on in the school. So it's a fun day for the staff and the students, and they have a day where they celebrate the 100th day of school. This Thursday, Effingham will host a family full moon snowshoe evening with hot chocolate, and grades 4 through 6 will be going tubing on Friday afternoon. The week of February 21st will also have some spirit themes woven into it. Crescent Lake School students, staff, and families were very appreciative of being able to participate in winter sports once again. And this year, Crescent Lake tried something a little bit different and worked with Gunstock Mountain to set up a ski and snowboard program. 85 students were either skiers or snowboarders, and a second choice for the Crescent Lake students was to learn or practice ice skating. And they also went to Pop Whalen with 75 students. 16 students opted for exploring trails and scenery around Crescent Lake School by taking part in snowshoe trips. For many students, the winter sports program was the first opportunity to try their hand at these enjoyable winter activities, and staff and students at Crescent Lake School found it very rewarding. And it was interesting to see Crescent Lake trying a new mountain. They tried Gunstock Mountain, and there was a little bit of a worry because it's a little bit bigger, and there was a concern that it might be a little harder to keep track of the students, but it was really very successful, and everyone had a great time. Being a K through 3 school, Carpenter students stayed a little bit closer to home, celebrating winter with Winter Fun Days, which were last week. The Carpenter students had the opportunity to go snowshoeing and sliding on the Brewster campus, and a great time was had by all. So I wanted to thank the many parent volunteers, our support staff, our teachers, our administrators, and the terrific transportation department for helping to make this year's winter program so successful.
Thank you, Kathy. Could I'd like to ask a little bit about masks again for the players on the basketball courts. Now, I know that our basketball season is coming to an end fairly quickly, and this has more to do with the rec departments that are using our buildings. They've been trying to follow our policy as well. We obviously lifted the mask mandate on courts until we had an outbreak again and had to reinstitute that. I've had several questions from rec departments asking if, while the kids are on the court, again, if they could have their masks off, because most of the teams they're playing don't have those masks on, but the children on the bench are indeed wearing their masks. So I'd just like a sense of what the board thinks about that process. Tim?
Am I safe to assume that you're thinking March 7th? Or sooner?
Yeah, I mean, they're asking for it now, but we can certainly, March 7th, everything's going to be optional anyway. They're asking for it sooner, and I'm not necessarily in favor of changing it right now because we've only got a couple of weeks left anyway. But their seasons, the rec department seasons, generally go through the month of March.
Yeah, I would say we're not changing things for the students in the building.
Yep.
We need to keep things status quo.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I'll tell them. I think that's the right. I think that's the right answer.
That's just my recommendation.
Yep, no, I think that's the right answer. Thank you. We don't need a vote on that. That was just a question that I was getting. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so the next item is graduation. Last year, we tried something new for graduation. We had 3 possible graduation times in order to give us more of an opportunity to hold graduation outside. There's always the possibility of rain, so last year we had a 6 p.m. time on Friday, a 10 a.m. on Saturday, and a 6 a.m. on Saturday.
6 p.m. Saturday.
I'm sorry, 6
Yeah,
p.m.
yeah.
No, we won't make it come at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So we did end up having the graduation on Friday night because the weather was great. But if it had rained, we would have had the option of Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Or if it had rained Friday and Saturday, we still would have had the option of Saturday evening and 6. So the reason it's so important to hold graduation outside is that if it's inside, the tickets have to be limited. And we would really rather not limit tickets because we want every family member to have the opportunity to see their family member graduate. So it seemed to work well, and I'm requesting that the schedule be approved for Friday, June 10th at 6 p.m. or Saturday, June 11th at 10 a.m. or Saturday, June 11th at 6 p.m., all depending on the weather.
I am certainly in favor of the Friday night. I thought last graduation Friday night was terrific. If we can do it again on Friday night, I think it really worked well, and I think everybody enjoyed that. It was a great night to be out there, and the other advantage of that in June is I know some of us have been in graduations where it's 90, 95 degrees with the sun beating on us on Saturday morning, and Friday night you're probably not going to have that. So I would be very, very much in favor of accepting a motion to have graduation on Friday night at 6:10 at 6 p.m. or Saturday the 11th at either 10 a.m. or 6 p.m. if the weather requires that. Okay, moved by Jim Pittman. Seconded by Dr. Jim. Okay, the motion again is to have graduation on 6:10 at 6 p.m. if the weather is good, or Saturday the 11th at 10 a.m., or Saturday the 11th at 6 p.m. if weather requires that. All those in favor, signal by saying aye. Tim? Wendy? Stephanie? Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Dana? And chair votes aye as well. Excellent. Terrific.
Just one more item under my report, and that's the date and location of the March board meeting and future board meeting locations. We've been at the Arts Center for quite a while now, and I know we like the opportunity to get out to the schools and see what the students are doing and hear from the school administrators. So I know we need to make a decision about our March meeting because the 14th, the Arts Center isn't available, so we could do March 7th here, but then starting in April, I wondered if you wanted to consider going back to our old schedule.
Okay. Anybody object to moving the board meeting from March 14th to March 7th? Just a week before. Again, the 14th is not, the Arts Center is not available at this point in March. You're not going to be here? Okay.
No big deal.
I'm not going to be here either.
Who's not going to be available? Wendy? Okay. Hang on, have a second. Okay, since we moved the mask mandate suspension up to March 7th, that would be the first day that the masks would be optional. We can hold our meeting at any location. So if we want to pick a particular school, we can certainly do that. We don't necessarily have to decide which school. Maybe Kathy can decide, figure out which school would be ready for us on the 7th of March. Or the 14th, if that matter. If we want to leave it on the 14th, can everybody make it on the 14th? Is that
Now, the fact that the elections are on the 8th, does that influence the decision at all? Before or after the election?
Not necessarily, because we won't do any reorganization of the board or any of that until the April meeting. So it really doesn't matter. So the 14th is our original date. We could probably keep that if we want to, and then we can pick a location for it. Okay, so let's leave the date at the 14th, and we'll have Kathy talk to the elementary schools or middle school or whatever school we want to visit, and see which school would like to have us visit on the 14th of March. And at the same time, we can look at that meeting, we can figure out where we're going to be on the 4th of April. Okay. All right. And if they're ready for us, we can go back to Ossipee. All right? Okay, how's that sound, Kathy?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, excellent. School Board Association. The only thing I really have to report on the New Hampshire School Board Association, as you know, the New Hampshire School Board Association withdrew its membership from the National School Board Association because of the letter sent to the Biden administration and a lot of other factors involved in that. Since that time, there are 20 state associations that have formed or in the process of forming a new national association. I'm not sure what the name of it's going to be yet. Right now it's a long set of initials which make no sense to me. So they're looking to move in a new direction. The dues would be somewhat less than we were paying to the National Association as a state association, but providing the same type of services that we used to get from the National School Board Association. I think it's a great move for the New Hampshire board. We only have 4 members of the organization, paid staff for the New Hampshire School Board Association. So we use the national process for a lot of information and a lot of support. The organization that's being formed now is going to be member-owned as opposed to just a national association that was really not managed as well as it should be, and not benefiting the member organization. So I think it's a good move on the New Hampshire School Board Association part. I have two letters that were sent out. Expressions of sympathy were sent out to Lois Jean Stevens and Gabrielle Wells on the passing of loved ones, and get well wishes for Chuck DeSica. Those are my notes. And we'll move on to committee reports, academic affairs. Stephanie, you're speaking for that, okay?
So I believe we all have copies of the policy that are up for approval this evening. We had several members of the administrative team present at academic affairs who spoke on the student dress code, which I'll get to in a moment. But the first one we're presenting is GWEBA-R, which is the guidelines for professional dress, and we are looking for approval as it appears without changes in your packets.
Are you making that motion, Stephanie?
I make a motion to approve.
That's fine.
And I'll second.
Yes.
Okay, moved by Stephanie, seconded by Tim to approve policy GBEBA-R.
Yes.
Okay, any questions on that policy? Okay, all those in favor, Tim? Wendy? Stephanie? Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman? Dana? And chair votes aye as well. Thank you. Student dress code. Yep.
The second one that we are bringing to approval is with modification, and that is the student dress code, JICA. So if you'll all turn to that, I can tell you what the modifications are and open it up for discussion. At the end of the first paragraph, the last line should say the principal and/or their designee shall take appropriate action to correct the situation. And that is consistent with where we indicate that the principal or their designee throughout the rest of the policy. In the second paragraph, in the third line, tops that do not, instead of completely cover, properly cover.
Okay.
In the last paragraph, in the last sentence, students who repeatedly violate this policy may face more disciplinary action, should be the revised phrasing of that.
Okay.
And then the most substantial revision is to the third paragraph, which deals with caps, hats, and hoods. And to strike that and to replace it with the following. Caps, hats, and hoods may be worn, but must be removed if they interfere with the educational process or limit identification, with the exception of headwear worn for health or religious reasons. This was a modification that was very well received by the academic affairs members who were present. We had one member who was present who was in favor of keeping it as it exists currently in the draft form. The administrative team was very supportive of this modification, and they cited reasons of cultural differences, that wearing caps and hats is not a sign of disrespect in this generation, and often has very practical purposes and can also help administrators cue in on behavioral cues that would indicate if a student is having a hard day, if their hat is pulled down a little lower, for example.
Okay, any questions or concerns or comments on the changes to that policy? Yes, Heather?
Stephanie, could I just add on the headwear for health or religious reasons, if we could include safety reasons still? So it would be for health, religious, or safety reasons?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Additional comments on the modifications to policy JICA, sorry.
Make a motion to approve JICA as presented.
Okay, moved by Tim, seconded by
Dana?
Dana? Okay, all those in favor, Tim?
Yes.
Wendy? Yes. Stephanie?
Yes.
Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman? Dana? And chair votes aye as well. Okay, we're good with that. Excellent, thank you.
And finally, the last piece, thank you everyone, the last piece is JIC-R, and the motion that the Academic Affairs Committee is making is to strike that policy because it is no longer needed. What it did was provide clarification and definitions for certain articles of clothing, and that language is no longer in the revised policy, so I make a motion to strike it.
Second?
Okay, can be moved by Stephanie and seconded by Tim to strike, let's see, it is JICA-R, strike that policy completely. Any comments, concerns? Okay, all those in favor, Tim? Wendy? Stephanie? Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Dana? And chair votes aye as well. Okay, we're good. Thank you, Stephanie. Anything else? Okay, building and maintenance. Anybody? Tim?
We actually have not had a meeting in a while, but we did get an update at the end of January on things that the maintenance department's been working on. We've had at the high school a walk-in cooler compressor that failed, which they had, that's now been replaced. A boiler not firing, Train came to the day and fixed that. And I'm not sure if this kind of goes in line because the boiler was not firing, but frozen pipes at Tuftonboro as well. But the maintenance department got that working. At Crescent Lake, a septic pump failed. They had the pump replaced. They too had a boiler pump failure. Train came out and fixed that. At Effingham, one of the HVAC drive failed. And as far as I know, that's been ordered. Not sure if that's been repaired yet or not. And they've been doing a few in-house things at some of the schools. So they've been very busy.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to finance, I really don't have anything other than, again, to thank the SAU for the deliberative session information. We're getting the mailing out, I'm assuming, very quickly. That little brochure that everyone gets to tell us exactly what's on the warrant articles and all about the budget. I have nothing for human resources right now. So we will move into closing activities, advanced planning. We are, again, we've already decided on the next meeting being held on the 14th of March at a place to be determined. And we'll let everybody know where that's going to be. And anything else for advanced planning? School vacation obviously is coming up on the 28th to the 4th. And get out and vote is right on the 8th. Exactly. Okay, public input. We'll start in the back room. Somebody in the back room would like to speak?
Hello, I'm Katie Aller again from Wolfeboro. I just wanted to circle back to COVID-19 updates. After going into a public school, Dr. Manning, and removing your mask, and openly admitting at a public school board meeting, Wendy Fenderson, that you opt not to wear yours. You both dropped the ball when you chose to extend the mask wearing deadline until March 7th. Now, if I remember correctly, the school board gave Kathy Cuddy Egbert the power to overrule or end mask wearing by her decision at any point. Mrs. Cuddy Egbert, it's your duty to follow on with that, as your school board has openly admitted they choose when and where they'd like to. Thank you.
Okay, anyone in this room would like to speak?
Hi, Nick McNally, Tuftonboro. Well, I spoke here a few months ago, well, it was actually held in the high school, about transparency, public input, and the fact that a lot of parents still feel like you aren't listening to them, which is evident by the amount of support in that room. Secondly, this segregation between people that don't want to wear masks stuffed into a little tiny room off to the side, not being able to see presentations properly. I'm sorry I forget her name, but the woman that stood up about the like the Northview, the mental awareness and support, we weren't able to see any of those graphs. We weren't able to read anything on them. We're looking at a screen through a screen. Not to mention that, the people standing up, they're not directly in front of you. You don't it's not face to face. Like, you guys are all making eye contact right now. You're not doing that with them. Why? Because they have a different worldview than you? There is, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 people in this room, and there's about, what, 15, 20 in the little side room? Enough's enough. You guys still remember what the motto in New Hampshire is? Live free or die? We should probably start getting back to that. Oh, and the petition from all the signatures that Jessica was talking about earlier, I know you guys didn't even acknowledge that during your COVID talk, even though this is quite related to that. So that still feels like you guys aren't listening. But I'm going to drop this off for you guys.
If there's anyone else in the back room that would still like to speak, we'll take another couple of minutes.
Yes, please.
Okay, state your name and town.
Hi, Bobby Budman. I am a Wolfeboro resident. I also am I would almost call myself a volunteer in the schools at this point. I'm in the schools almost daily, trying to help out, trying to sub. And I just wanted to touch upon a few things that are being said. First, I want to say I'm in the music room, and I'm having the privilege of sitting here where my son plays guitar every morning, and it's a beautiful room. I can hear the meeting crystal clear. There's actually sometimes better conditions in here with the viewing of materials than sitting in the auditorium on some nights. I just wanted to talk about removing the masks, which most of the people, I think we can all agree upon, have either had COVID and have antibodies for it, or have been vaccinated. And so the decisions are at this point kind of a private decision between families. However, there will be a consequence to this. And the consequence is we are going to have more teachers who will be out of school. I mean, we've already had a plethora. January was really hard. At the meeting a few weeks ago, it was alluded to that we could not get substitutes and we could not get people to come in the school to work, because that is what the situation is right now in New Hampshire. However, that is not true. We have what are called ESSER funds. And if I look on the website for the ESSER funds, and I read what they're for, right off the GWRSD website, They are intended to assist the schools. These funds that have been allocated to the schools from the federal government for financial assistance during COVID. The funds have been allocated in 3 phases. They're intended to assist the schools with certain circumstances associated with the pandemic, such as personal protective equipment and staffing. Staffing is listed as the second thing there for our ESSER funds. And I want to talk about that. You have subs going into the school, and they're in the school for 8 hours a day. They are being paid $75 an hour. We have funds to bring more people in. When we take the masks off, we will have more teachers out. We will have more paraprofessionals out. And we need to fill those jobs to keep our children in school. So removing the masks is fine, but we need staff to support the staff that's going out. I have been in classes for up to 3 weeks at a time, just over and over and over. And we don't have the support. And we need to get the support, and the board needs to come together and allocate those ESSER funds to actually pay people a wage. We have long-term substitutes who are doing the full school year without even getting any type of benefits. And they're there every day. They're working on curriculum for the kids. We're running around. I was at the school for 9 hours today. We really need to bring in more support. We need to use our ESSER funds, and if you're demasking, we will be having teachers out sick, not even from COVID, just from regular flu and everything else. So I really hope the board looks at these ESSER funds and allocates them to staffing and pays a living wage to staff, to our paraprofessionals who do not have any benefits. They caught COVID in the schools. They were out for up to 10 days, and they did not even receive COVID pay from the ESSER funds. So I think that Jessica Williams actually made a comment about doing a back pay on some of that to help with the staffing. A lot of our staffing, they were out for 10 days, and they did not receive COVID funds. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, one more up front here.
Tisha O'Keefe, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire. I have to say that I appreciate the March 7th deadline, but what a shame that it's taken this long. And anybody advocating for this, including our friend in the back who just spoke, it's just disgusting to me, and people are fed up. You can see it with the petition, all the signatures. We had well over 1,000. We were able to validate plenty in order to submit the petition. People on both sides of the aisle are fed up. In any case, my one real quick comment, I know there's somebody else standing in the back and I want them to have a second, but I think it was Sarah Scotland who spoke about the social emotional well-being and wellness, the student wellness. I think it's pretty appropriate considering what you guys have done and what you've advocated for some time now, which has really been damaging our kids, the masks. I want to just read a little something from a recent study. It was actually a study, it's just 2022, so just recent, titled, or it's from the Cognitive Research Journal, and it's titled Face Masks Disrupt Holistic Processing and Face Perception in School-Age Children. It says the conclusion of it, and I am more than happy to send this to anybody interested, especially Sarah, since you seem to be, here on a grant. Maybe you could take this into consideration, the well-being of our students and our children. The conclusion of this study says the current study provides evidence for quantitative and qualitative changes in processing of masked faces in children. Changes in face recognition performance and alteration in the processing of partially occluded faces could have significant effects on children's social interactions with their peers and their ability to form relationships with educators. Previous research in adults has already demonstrated the detrimental effect of reduced face perception abilities on one's level of social confidence and quality of life. What you're doing by advocating these masks over and over again, you're literally damaging our kids, and we're not going to know for a long, long time just what those damages are. And it's irreversible. And we're screaming from the rooftops. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, brain surgeon to figure any of this out. This is common sense, and you keep advocating for it. March 7th is not good enough, in my opinion. Every single day. Somebody up there said, what's another few more weeks? It's everything, because this has gone on far too long. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take one more in the back, and then we'll shut off public input.
Hello, my name is Brett Williams. I'm from Wolfeboro. I'm speaking out tonight to report creepy, disturbing behavior from a substitute teacher. Her name is Bobby Budman.
Okay, we can't, I'm sorry, we can't take any personal comments. I'm sorry, we cannot. Please shut his mic off. Please shut his mic off in the back. Thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A:3, paragraph 2 for personnel matters. Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Jim, seconded by Jim Pittman. Oops. And, okay, all those in favor. Tim? Yes. Wendy? Yes. Stephanie? Yes. Dr. Jim? Yes. Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Dana? Yes. Chair votes aye. We are in non-public. Thank you. All right, are we ready?
Yes.
Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Dr. Jim. In favor. Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
And Stephanie? And chair votes aye as well. We're adjourned. Thank you.